Man, he just got out of the hospital after a successful debut against James Vick. Not his debut performance, but on the ESPN for the UFC. He is the Irish Dragon. The one and only Paul Felder is here. Hi, Paul. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. All right. Well, give us the deets. First of all, let me say this. Congratulations. Number two, let me tell you how sorry I am that you had to spend the last week in the hospital. But I'm glad to hear you're out. And can you give us a health update? How are things?
Well, we're working with one lung now, but it's the most beautiful lung they've ever seen. No, I'm joking. Both lungs are fully functional. They had to go in there and peel off the puncture. They actually found the puncture, which is apparently like a 20% chance usually when they repair these collapsed lungs. They usually can't find the actual part that's causing the problem. They usually just have to stick it to your interior of your chest wall. So now my lung is kind of glued via, scraping and getting it to do scar tissue to the inside of my chest. So it will probably never fall ever again, even if it is punctured. And they were able to actually repair via staple the actual puncture itself. So everything's out of me. It's all fixed up. It's a freak thing. I had like a bubble that had formed on my lung. So when I ate that shot from Vic, it was perfectly up against the bubble in my chest cage, and it popped it.
How did the bubble form?
Man, the doctors are telling me that guys my age, white men that are on the taller side, that are athletic, it's very common, and it usually doesn't cause any problems except for when you're in car crashes, basically, which is what I was in, which is a fist fight in the UFC.
Okay, when you got hit, did you know something was up? Like, at what point were you realizing, like, ooh, I don't feel quite right?
Well, as soon as he hit me, I was like, holy shit, that was a hard knee. And I knew it was like 20 seconds left. I was looking at the clock. I thought I was ahead. I was like, man, just don't let this dude knock you out. Just don't let this dude knock you out. It was literally all I was thinking. But then part of me was being me, so I was throwing back, trying to crush it. And then I stepped right into that right knee, straight up the middle, and he hit all of it. I knew I busted my ribs. I thought I did some cartilage damage or maybe had like a little fracture. But then I'm doing all these interviews backstage and I'm getting shorter and shorter of breath. And I'm still walking around doing all these interviews. We tried to go to the press conference and the doctor, thank God, that was there with everybody, peeled me out. He was like, yeah, we've got to get you checked.
All right, so you went to the hospital. At what point did you start feeling better?
Well, so it gets worse before it gets better. So I go to the hospital, and at this point, I had peed some blood, which is why we wanted to get checked. Because now we're thinking maybe I bruised like a kidney. I know this is going to sound gross and weird to people that don't fight, but it's not my peed blood, a hard sparring session or a fight. So I'm alarmed, but I'm not too long. So we go to get my kidneys x-rayed and scanned. Everything else is fine. My head seems fine. No other serious injury. Well, they don't find anything on my kidneys. They find that at that point is when they found that my lung had collapsed, like 15% at that point.
Okay.
So that's when things got a little scary, and that's when I realized I wasn't going home that next morning.
What was the worst of it all? Like, what was rock bottom in terms of pain? Like, where were you? What was the scenario?
Probably, well, they put the tubes in first. They try to put this tube in through your chest that goes and actually has a suction device to it that will pull the air surrounding your lung itself out. And what it's supposed to do is fill up your lung. Your lung sets on its own. Everybody's happy. Everybody goes home. You don't need surgery. But we did that for 2 days straight, and that didn't stick for some reason. So after surgery is when I was probably in the most pain I've been in a really, really, really long time.
You know what's crazy?
There's tubes sticking out of my ribs, mind you. I've just had surgery. They've cut through the muscles on my rib cage, gone through the bones in there, stapled things, and they scraped they disturb the surface of your lung so that it sticks to the interior of your chest.
Jesus. Okay.
It sounds super easy to a doctor until you're trying to not take anything for the pain afterwards, and you realize quickly that you ain't manning up on this one today.
Okay, so so many questions. When are you able to? I realize it's not in your mind right now because you just won, but we have to think about this. How long is the recovery process?
It's not as bad as like my arm. My doctor told me basically, he's like, take it easy this week. Let the little cuts and things heal up. And then he's like, just, don't go right back to contact. We'll let you know when you can start thinking about doing that. But as far as cardio and getting back in the swimming pool and running again and maybe doing pad work, probably a couple weeks.
Okay, well, that's not the end of the world. So how would you classify this in terms of injuries you had in a fight? On some level, it sounds like the worst. In other levels, the rehab's not as long. So how do you classify it?
Here's the thing. As far as screwing up my celebration fight week, as far as stressing the living shit out of my family and friends, scaring the hell out of the UFC, and I think even Dana and them are like, he has what? Collapsed lungs? Like, what? As far as that, I think as far as coming back from it, I think it's going to suck just to get my cardio back used to breathing heavy again for a little bit. But, I don't think it's going to be anywhere near, God forbid, I tore a shoulder or a knee, or it might be up there with, like, less than a meniscus tear surgery.
Yeah, it's just so weird. So you kind of covered it.
It's strange.
It's really strange. But you're not worried about a recurrence of this?
No, they said that's not a thing. And they checked my lungs with a CT scan for any other bubbles and weird things like that. And they said that my doctor, quote, Dr. Feinstein, shout out to him over there at, was it Banner Hospital? Yeah. Because he's the one, first of all, that really wanted me to go in. He felt something was wrong. But he's like, yeah, once the scars and everything heal up, you're going to be, your lungs are fine. And I was freaking out. And he, quote, told me, him and the head surgeon that did my surgery were like, you have the most beautiful lungs that we've ever seen.
Not a smoker, huh?
Quote, the most beautiful lungs we have ever seen. Paul Felder, what is he known for? Gritty fights? No. The most beautiful lungs that the doctors have ever seen.
That's a great thing to be known for, I suppose, in the end. Well, look, what a crazy, you know how you fight hard, Paul? You're one of these guys where some fighters, every fighter gets banged up in a fight, of course. But some fighters, like, they get injured in training, and some fighters don't. And then some fighters get injured in fights, and some don't. You get injured in fights. That tells you, win or lose, you're out there putting it on the line.
A fight, man. I told everybody before this that I belonged in the goddamn top 10. I fought the guy. Nobody wants to fight, even though he's coming off that loss to Gaethje. He got exposed a little bit there that he's a little chinny, but I didn't even beat him that way. I didn't catch him with that one, quote, lucky shot. I beat him at a game that nobody thought that I could beat him at, and that's going to decision with somebody and showing that I've got the intelligence to hang with the best guys in this division. That's what you're going to see more of from me. You're always going to see me fight my ass off. You're going to see a little more strategic approach now that I'm going to be up there with the real big dogs in this division. But I'm coming for them. I tell you that now. I'm not in this to sit back. I'm in this to make a run for the belt, and that's it. When that's done, if that doesn't seem plausible to me anymore, I'm retired.
So it's fair to say, I know that cut to 155, you don't like it, but you're just so competitive at 155, Paul. I'm assuming at this point, that's the division for you.
Yeah, I think this win sealed that. I had a tough loss to Perry up at 70. I felt great, but I felt great. This last weight cut was really, really good. I hired the right people, and Lockhart and those guys got me rehydrated. The crew that I was with, just everybody was on point. We really, really tried it the right way. I felt very strong. I was cut up out of my mind for that fight. And that's the plan from now on, is to really, now that they're going to be big fights coming up, I'll have the time to put into that. No more short notice fights. I think I'm past that kind of stuff in my career, unless it's a title fight. Now it's going to be at least 8 to 12 weeks ahead of time. I know that I got to get my diet on point and make 55 as smooth as possible.
Now, you had tweeted about it. Have you had a celebratory beer yet?
Oh, yeah, I have one beer pretty much. if you don't count the one that my brother snuck into the hospital for me that nobody should probably know about. But other than that one, the old Irish hospital beer that was brought in for me. I had one last night with my family. We went out, and I could barely even drink it because I'm still trying to get off of any of the narcotics and shit like that. So
now you're back home?
No, I'm still in Phoenix.
Wow. So when are you leaving?
Wednesday afternoon, I'm allowed to leave.
What are you going to do? You going to go see Phoenix?
Yeah, we're going to go out and take my daughter right now to some butterfly sanctuary, get some lunch, and then I don't know. We'll figure something out for tonight. Maybe there's like a show or something we can take her to. Just my 3.5-year-old's out here now, so I got to entertain her now.
Well, don't take her to a Suns game. Everyone will be sad. All right, so let's talk about what the fight itself. Now that it's over, tell me about the game plan. You mentioned that the overhand right you were looking for, that wasn't necessarily all that successful, but the fight itself was, man, you were on fire. What was your objective in that fight from a strategic standpoint?
Well, I wanted to get him backing up on his heels, which we were able to do quite a bit, and get him running. And I knew Duke's whole thing was, and I wish I would have done it more. It's something I've actually watched the fight, and I'm getting a lot of positive things said to me, but I see a lot of things that I could have done a lot better, like more so than most of my other fights. I could have got him out of there with leg kicks, and I could have done it earlier than the third round. I would have done what Duke was yelling at me to do the whole time, which is follow up every kick he's throwing with my own kick, and I'd have butchered his leg. And that was part of the plan, was to butcher his leg no matter where he went. If he went to the right, we butcher it from the outside. If he goes to the left, we butcher it there. If he switches stances, I'm going to butcher the inside. I don't care what I hit. And so that was one of them. And obviously, coming over the top with the punches, I really wanted my left hook to land more. And spinning shit ended up that was not necessarily part of the plan, but it ended up being some of the most successful stuff that I threw in that fight.
That's interesting. So you improvised all the spinning stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we worked some spinning elbows, but I don't think we expected them to really land too much. Duke did. I mean, it was definitely something. He's a genius, bro. Now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, maybe we did do some spinning elbow stuff.
Did you go back and watch the fight on ESPN? Because in between rounds, you can hear Vick tell his corner that the leg kicks were just crushing him.
Yeah, I heard that. And I wasn't really able to hear any of it in the hospital, but I'm telling you, man, I wish, hindsight's always 20/20, but I've always wanted that leg kick finish, and it was dangling right in front of me.
Well, it was a solid win. It does put you, I believe, inside the top 10. Just a great performance by you. But I want you to put on your fighter and your analyst hat. We just had on Dustin Poirier. He's going to be fighting featherweight champ Max Holloway for the title. As a lightweight who's looking up at the top of the division, I wonder what you make of that.
Interesting. Yeah, we got a lot of guys trying to be double champs right now. At least we got Poirier, who's a solid, straight-up savage. So hopefully he can shut down some of these double champ actions. I'd say I'd have to be rooting for Dustin Poirier in that one. I love Max Holloway, but if these double champs are getting out of hand, I think for the sake of the lightweight division, the best thing that happens there is Dustin wins, and we look and see what Khabib plans on doing. If he's sitting out, okay, forget about him. We get an interim belt that's already there. Then you have either Ferguson and Al's in the mix there. As long as I think Poirier was definitely one of the guys that deserved a big fight. So I'm glad that he's getting that. It's just interesting that it's with somebody coming from another division.
Yeah, God only knows how this one's going to go. But I love
it. Now, as just a straight customer, I'm like, holy shit, I love that fight. But I'm looking at it as now somebody in the division. It's like, God damn, another one of these, double champ status things. Because Max we know damn well he could win.
Are you, what is your view about champ fights? Like, my view is basically they should be very, very rare. I'm not against them in all cases. I'm against the overuse of them, and I feel like personally we're in that territory.
I think we're pushing that limit a little bit here. I just think it's going to take away some of the specialness of it, the allure of it. First couple, okay. Now it's like every champ's kind of getting their shot. That's the double champ status.
You have a teammate who is fighting for a title this coming weekend, Tyron Woodley. He's taking on Kamaru Usman. I got to be honest, I was looking at what people have been saying about Kamaru Usman's chances, and there's a lot of dismissiveness about it. Now, don't misunderstand me. Tyron Woodley is a defending champion for a reason. He's a spectacular talent, but Kamaru Usman is no slouch himself. I wonder what you make of this matchup and what the essentials are from your vantage point.
I think it is so interesting, because Tyron's obviously, I think that the standout difference between the two of them is the power and the explosiveness when it comes to the boxing department on the feet. Both guys can wrestle. We haven't really seen Tyron use it other than defensively. At least Kamal has been up on that, and you see him training, you watch his footage. He's still very much at the forefront of trying to keep his wrestling game strong, which I think is going to be a big part of the game plan, forcing Tyron to get back to his wrestling roots. However, Tyron's been working with Ben again throughout this camp and really pushing his pace and his nonstop, going 25 minutes straight. I've been watching him in the gym with some of the guys he's bringing in that are stud wrestlers. So I think it's really going to play out on who hits who harder. And if they don't knock each other out, I see it going the distance. But I can see Tyron catching him with some of that power if Usman doesn't mind his P's and Q's on the way in there to try to wrestle him a little bit.
By the way, have you seen any of the training with Askren personally?
I haven't. I've seen a little clip not too long ago from one of Tyron's cameras, just pushing a pace. That's how Ben is when he trains over there. I haven't had the pleasure to really train with him too much, but I know that that's what he likes to do. He just throws a time on the clock and they just go. There's no. It's like, what are you talking about? Minute breaks in between. You just go until you're done training. Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, that's how two of those guys, just two hammers going after it. No thanks, man.
Yeah, I know.
It sounds pretty crazy. By the way, speaking of all this analyst work, I know you're not even home from the hospital yet, but us in the media, we just can't help ourselves. Do you know, are you going to stay on the path of working your way up the contendership queue, or are you going to break in some calls on the mic? What is the 2019 plan for Paul Felder in that way?
Oh, I got some shows lined up, my man. I got some things lined up. I got a lot of gigs lined up coming up. I don't know what's been announced, but I would say like six jobs lined up already.
Jesus,
all within a few months period too. So I'll be busy the next few months once I'm healed up. So it's going to be perfect to keep my mind fresh in the game, but keep my body from. I got to give it a break, man. That was a long training camp, even without the lung injury. It was a grinder. So I'm excited to get back on the mic. Yeah, I'll be doing ESPN, ESPN Plus, desk work, color work, the whole nine.
You mentioned something about Duke Rufus. I got to work with him briefly when he was a commentator for Glory, and just a wealth of knowledge. You were saying how good it's been. To me, Paul, it's like your skill set is maturing. You found the right weight class. You got, as you mentioned, the cut has gone better. You and Duke are working well together. It just feels like, from my vantage point, everything's kind of coming together. Not really from your career generally, as the commentating would indicate, but on the fighting side. I don't know, man. It feels like you got like a really working formula here. Do you kind of feel like you not figured it out exactly, but you're not swimming upstream?
No, yeah. And here's the thing. This is what's great about the way it worked out, and that people kind of cast me aside. Not everybody did, but the casual fans were kind of he's leaning towards broadcasting. People forget in this sport, and it's natural. I was on a 3-fight elbow knockout winning streak at 155 with Duke, with this new formula. Then on a week's notice, we bump up to 170. We fight Savage and Mike Perry. We break our arm in the first round, and we still almost win that fight. So people are like, oh, he's losing to Mike Perry. People are giving me crap about that. I'm like, first of all, the dude's, if anything, a powerhouse. I broke my arm on top of that. So I was never really off the path, especially with Duke and them. It's just, it slowed down for everybody watching this whole thing play out because of injuries, because just setbacks. But now, yeah, we're back. That's all I wanted to do is prove to everybody, listen, I'm a fighter first. This is my passion. I was so excited to get into that octagon. So nervous backstage, feeling all those things that I've missed for, 8 months or however long it had been, only fighting once last year. Watching all these lightweights take all this spotlight and glory and doing all this stuff, and I got to literally get in there and interview these guys I want to fight. Now I'm back. I got a little setback in my lung area, but I'll cough that out and get moving soon.
Well, if there were frequent flyer points for or frequent attendee points for hospitals after fights, man, you'd be having a ton of points. But you know what? Like I mentioned, you earn them. You got out there and you fight hard, and you had a great win at UFC on ESPN1. Rest up, Paul. Cannot wait to hear you back on the mic. I know it's not your primary job, but you're great at that too. And we really appreciate you taking some time to speak to us.
Now it's beers on the road and eating out with the producers, so it's going to be a good bulking. We're in bulking season. We're getting into bulking season now.
Fair enough, Paul. Thank you so much for your time, man. Really appreciate it.
Always fun talking to you, man.